departed. The sacrifice have concluded. Now Pṛthu Maharaj is returning back to the kingdom. That is being described here. When the king, I'm reading the translation again, entered his city, it was very beautifully decorated to receive him with pearls, flower garlands, beautiful cloth, golden gates, and the entire city was perfumed with highly fragrant incense. So, in the first few verses, we're going to see about the welcome of Pṛthu Maharaj into the city, and you will notice it's almost similar as how when Lord Shri Krishna entered Dwarka, the welcome, in other words, the gates will be beautifully decorated, the streets will be cleaned with water, scents will be, perfumes will be thrown everywhere. Like that is being described. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, we read in the first canto also, using natural items is considered auspicious. So that's how the decoration used to happen. Prabhupada writes in the purport in the first line, real opulence is supplied by natural gifts such as gold, silver, pearls, valuable stones, fresh flower, trees, silken cloth. Thus, the Vedic civilization recommends opulence and decoration with these natural gifts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such opulence immediately changes the condition of the mind, and the entire atmosphere becomes spiritualized. Unlike when you use plastic or fabricated items from the company. Text number 2. So I'll not read the Sanskrit now, I'll read the translation. So everyone is assembled to welcome Pṛthu Maharaj. Fragrant water distilled from sandalwood and aguru herb was sprinkled everywhere on the lanes, roads, small parks throughout the city, and everywhere were decorations of unbroken fruits, flowers, wetted grains, varied minerals, lamps, all presented as auspicious paraphernalia. All the street crossings, there were bunches of fruits and flowers, as well as pillars of banana trees, betel nut branches. All these combined decorations everywhere looked very attractive. So everything which is God-given, natural, is being used to decorate the city, to welcome Pṛthu Maharaj. Text number 4. As the king entered the gate of the city, all the citizens received him with many auspicious articles, lamps, flowers, yogurt. The king was also received by many beautiful unmarried girls whose bodies were bedecked with various ornaments, especially with earrings which collided with one another. Brother, give me a little bass. It's too high treble. It's too sharp a sound. So in the purport, Prabhupada talks about the science behind all these arrangements. Why all these natural things? And of course, what is the idea of having young girls, there to welcome? So young girls in our Sanskrit is called as Kumari. And we just had Navratri where these Kumaris were worshipped. The feet are washed. They are considered auspicious in that way. So that is the whole idea. Text number 5. So this is about the natural arrangement, now musical arrangements. When the king entered the palace, conch shells, cattle drums were sounded. Priests chanted Vedic mantras and professional reciters offered different prayers. But in spite of all this ceremony to welcome him, the king was not the least bit affected. So here once again we study about the science of guest reception. So I remember when we had our NVCC temple opening, so there was a lot of discussion about how the guest reception of the welcome ceremony should happen, at least for the VIPs. VIPs I'm referring to senior devotees. So it was decided, you might have had some idea by now, it was decided because this is Maharashtra, then we'll welcome all of them in a traditional Maharashtra style. Everyone when they will enter, उनको पगड़ी पहनाई जाएगी, उनके हाथों पे incense लगाया जाएगा, there will be sprinkling of a scented water, garland offer करा जाएगा, like this, and there will be a tilak, kumkum would be put on the forehead. Those who are sannyasis, they'll be quickly taken into a private room where the feet will be washed like this, and and you give them some gift or something like that. So this is how we do it today. And generally, who would you engage generally? For incense, scented water like this, we generally engage kids. So we are also still up to today, we're following them to some extent. This is what has been described here. And there's a musical instrument, Vedic Himsa, and then there will be devotees chanting, some prayers, Purusha Sukta, Brahma Samhita, something just to, or in our case, we chant the holy names. The Hare Krishna Kirtan will be going on, and then welcoming of guests. Water. Welcoming of guests happens like that. Now, in the text number 5, one more interesting thing is mentioned here is Pṛthu Maharaj did not become proud at all. Imagine if you are given a grand welcome. Okay, let's imagine a scenario. If we can mute it. I want you to close your eyes and imagine. You get down, or you come out of the Pune airport. There are 4 people standing there holding a placard that has your name. Welcome, Falana Dikana Das, or whatever XYZ. And you see that, and you go to the placard of the person who was standing there. Immediately say, "Sir, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming to Pune." And they offer you garland. And then each of them carry your luggage. "Sir, why are you carrying your luggage? Please give your luggage to us." And they escort you. And outside is standing brand new BMW. Batman wali, And you're escorted to the car, you sit in the car, comfortable, and the car takes you zoo, and that takes you to your wherever you're supposed to go to the venue. And you reach to the venue, and there are almost 20, 30 guests, people are standing there to welcome you. Some are playing musical instruments, some are throwing petals at you, you come out of it, and there is a lot of excitement you have come over there. How would you feel? How many of you feel there would be a sense of pride? Hum bhi kuch hain aakhirkar. What do you say? How many of you, when in that situation, you look at somebody just walking across the street, somebody just walking across the street, and you're getting a grand reception, how would you feel? There would be a sense of pride? Something like this or not? So there is an interesting thing mentioned here. The king was not the least bit affected. See, point is, all of us going to get affected. Therefore, the point is mentioned that king was not affected. Otherwise, why would this point would be highlighted? And Prabhupada says something very interesting in the purport. The reception given to the king was full of opulence, yet he did not become proud. It is said, therefore, that the great personalities of power and opulence never become proud. Who? The great personalities. And the example is given here that a tree which is laden with fruits is always bent low. The one which does not have fruits is always standing erect. This is a sign of a wonderful character of great personalities. I had a recent experience. I've been to one particular city. Just to reach to that city, I had to go through a lot of nightmare. Our car was stuck in a traffic. I had to catch a flight. I had to literally catch hold of my luggage and run across the streets, beg people to give me ride. And I don't carry cash. I don't have any money to, immediately get into auto or something. Somebody give me, even a bike ride will work, because I had to go to the station. Because they told me, somebody was directing me on the phone, you go to the station, from there you catch a metro, and you get down at some place, Andheri, I believe, and from there, take a cab and come to the airport like this. Nobody was willing to give a ride. Everyone was stuck with traffic jam. Somehow I reached the station. From station, almost half an hour was there, and I just could not enter the train only. It was fully packed, crowded, And somehow somebody told me, "Prabhu, if you want to get inside the train, you have to literally beg. You have to tell people you have a flight. If I don't catch this train, you will not be able to reach the airport." So this was the last train. If I miss this, I have to cancel my plan, or I have to rebook some other flight or something else. So again, there was no space, fully packed. And one person had somehow created a space. So I literally, with the both hands, I said, "Sir, please understand, I have a flight to catch, and if I miss this train, I've been standing here for the last half an hour. If I miss this train, I will not get to the airport in time." Pata nahi kya hua. By the grace of the Lord, He pushed and pulled and created a space for himself. He said nothing and he came out. And he gave me that cleavage with which I can enter. Somehow, and जैसे मैं घुसा ना, पता नहीं क्या हुआ, पीछे से 4 लोग और घुस गए. Although there was no space. और खींचातानी करके मैं आधे पौन घंटे उस ट्रेन में खड़ा रहा. और खूब लोगों ने, अब मुझे तो एटिकेट पता नहीं बॉम्बे मेट्रो का, उन्होंने बोला इफ़ यू आर गेटिंग टू द ट्रेन यू हैव टू स्टैंड इन दिस एंगल दैट एंगल एवरी पोजीशन, यू नो दे हैव देयर ओन वे ऑफ स्टैंडिंग. मैंने कहा यार मेरी चटनी बन चुकी थी. Lord, you know, it was raining. My clothes were all dirty. I was, you know, sprinkle and all that. Somehow I reached to the airport, and literally it was feeling like जैसे किसी ने मेरे कपड़े फाड़ दिए हो, बुरी हालत हो चुकी, ऐसे मैं पिटा हुआ पहुंचा था. And then I reached to the city where I had to go, and I reached there at the airport. Then I had this welcome which I was telling you. There were 4 people standing with a placard. मैंने कहा यार मैं कैसे जाऊँ इस कपड़ों में, मेरी हालत खराब है मेरी. I went out. There was a brand new BMW. I got inside the car. I was just thinking, how within a day you can from rags to riches, you have an experience. Then it was a 5-star hotel. When I went there, then they had this whole dum style में welcome. मैंने कहा अगर मैं किसी को कहानी बताऊँ ना, डम वाला भी बोलेगा तू हट, तेरे से अच्छा जीवन तो मेरा राज का. You know? So I was just going through this experience that particular day in my life. So anyways, I was just reminded of it. Anyways, text number 6. So the idea of the great personality of power and opulence never becomes proud. The idea of the great personality is they're in line with the truth. They know the very fact that today you have it, tomorrow it can be taken away from you. So when it is great personality is mentioned here, it is sukhe dukhe samay kritva labha labho jaya jayo. That is the definition of great personality. So if you have it, you don't get affected. If you don't have it, you will not get affected. That's the idea of it. Text number 6. Both the important citizens and the common citizens welcomed the king very heartily, and he also bestowed upon them their desired blessings. This is a welcome of Pṛthu Mahārāja is going on. Text number 7. King Pṛthu was greater than the greatest soul and was therefore worshipable by everyone. He performed many glorious activities in ruling over the surface of the world and was always magnanimous. After achieving such great success and a reputation which spread throughout the universe, he at last obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Last line of the verse, Pitam Nidhyaharure Parampadam. So like this, the discussion about Pṛthu Mahārāja concludes here. Saying that he came back, he ruled the kingdom as the best citizen, as the best king. He set the best example by performing his kingly duties. At the end of his life, he attained kingdom of Godhead, back home, back to Godhead. This is how it's been described here. Now something else happens. Text number 8. Sutavacha tad adirajasya yasho vijambitam गुणेर अशेषे गुणवत्सभाजितं शत्ता महाभागवता सदस्पते कौशारविं प्रागृणतम् अर्चयन्. Sutta Goswami continued, O Shaunaka, leader of the great sages, after hearing Maitreya speak about the various activities of King Pṛthu, the original king who was fully qualified, glorified, and widely praised all over the world, Vidura, the great devotee, very submissively worshipped Maitreya Rishi and asked him the following questions. You understand there's the levels of conversation happening? So original conversation is happening between Sutta Goswami and Shaunakadi Rishi. He is quoting the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya Muni. We started from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which will continue to the 5th canto. Now the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya is about Pṛthu Mahārāja. So here Maitreya Muni concluded about Pṛthu Mahārāja, and then Vidurji asked further questions to Maitreya Muni about Pṛthu Mahārāja. Sutta Goswami is now conveying this message to Shaunakadi Rishi. And text number 9, Viduravacha. Viduravacha. Sobhisikta Pṛthu Vipre Labdha Shesha Surharanaha Vipre Pratsa Vaishnavam Tejo Bahavo Yabhyam Dudhohagam. So those who like to hear about others, those who like to converse about others, here is a very important topic and discussion about whom you should converse or discuss about. Viduji speaks, text number 9, translation. My dear Brahmana Maitreya, it is very enlightening to understand that King Pṛthu was enthroned by the great sages and Brahmanas. All the Devatas presented him with innumerable gifts, and he also expanded his influence upon personally receiving strength from Lord Vishnu. Thus, he greatly developed the earth. This is all previous chapter, but this all has happened. Okay. Now, what else? Viduji says, text number 10, translation. Pṛthu Mahārāja was so great in his activities and magnanimous in his method of ruling that all the kings and devatas on the various planets still follow in his footsteps. So, very interesting thing. Prabhupada will also mention the purport. Of course, we have lost most of the Vedic knowledge, but traditionally, the subject matter of Pṛthu Mahārāja was discussed and taught in the royal dynasty, just to set a right example of how the king should rule. Pṛthu Mahārāja examples become of great importance because Pṛthu Mahārāja was born to a father who was an atheist. And therefore it becomes far much more important. Father was atheist, he has completely stopped the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All Brahmanical culture he has stopped and destroyed. Whereas Pṛthu Mahārāja, in such an adverse condition, re-established the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the adverse condition to a favorable condition. Therefore, Pṛthu Mahārāja's example is particularly very important. Now, Viduji says, I wish to hear more and more about Pṛthu Mahārāja because his activities are so pious and auspicious. So I just want you to reflect for a second. Whose life, whose examples, we are inspired by. In other words, can you just for a second close your eyes and think about some person, some personality, if in case you have an opportunity to discuss about that person, you would not want the conversation to end. I'm not talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I just wanted to, just for a second, close your eyes and think about it. Is there any personality? I'm not going to ask you for the answers. I just want you to reflect upon it. If you're having a conversation about him, discussion about him, you would not want that conversation to end because such a great inspiration. How many of you have such personalities, one or many in your mind running through? Please raise your hand. I hope they're not film personalities and sports stars. Sure, na? We're not talking about Shah Rukh Khan and Sachin Tendulkar here. Okay, let me clarify, put an adjective here or condition. We're talking about from the spiritual paradigm. Once again, raise your hand. How many of you have these personalities? You mind? Raise your hand high up. So we all want to talk. We all want to hear. Whenever an opportunity comes, bring that discussion. This is the best way to transform your prajalpa into sanjalpa. Always do that. Because that attracts our heart to talk about them, ask about them. If you know something about, share about them. I'll tell you, maybe I can share the name also here. So, okay, let's not take the names. There was this particular teacher, very, very inspiring personality. It was a great inspiration for me also. Although I had a very brief contact with him. His students particularly, they followed Upadeshamrita teaching so profoundly, so profoundly. Everyone was grahastha, no brahmachari. Everyone was grahastha. All were from top-notch colleges from India. If they would speak, if they would utter a word, it would be, if they say anything, first of all, they would not say anything. If they say anything, it will be about service, or else it will be about their teacher, or Srila Prabhupada. You cannot hear, I have never heard anything from them about anything else. There is no question of fault finding only. So I had little touch, little contact, a few personal meetings with that teacher, but I had good amount of interaction with the students because I used to serve around. We used to serve around together. They'll come to the temple because nobody was living in the temple. They'll come like this minute of silence, do their service. And if you really want to talk to them, you start talking about their guru, you start talking about Prabhupada, then you will see them bubbly and you'll see them, they're also human beings. They'll talk like human beings. Otherwise, that was a quality of training. That was a, training. I mean, I just wanted to pay attention when Rupa Goswami says, Vacho Vekam. That's the very first thing he said. And then, Atyahara Priyashascha Prajalpaha. Then he again repeated that. Because of great importance. Tongue is a thing, causes so much havoc, so much destruction. So here Vidurji is saying, hey Maitreya Muni, I would like to hear more about Pṛthu Maharaj. Well, Pṛthu Maharaj have returned back to the kingdom and you said he ruled very nicely and returned back home, back to Godhead. Wait a second, I want to understand, how did he rule? Tell me what his life when he returned back to the kingdom, what all he did. I want to know more about him. Well, isn't that wonderful conversation? Pṛthu is not an ordinary person. Okay, he's a Shakti Avishabda. Apart from that, you can see he's a great devotee of the Lord because he established Dharma. So he's expressing that. I want to know more about. So therefore, it's important for all of us also, while we are trying to cultivate remembrance of the Lord, we should also read about the great devotees, great personalities, their biographies, autobiographies, or things written about them. For example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the seventh Goswami is the book. His own as Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. Today morning I was thinking, I was looking at my library and I have different sections of this. I was thinking, I don't still have that book. What is that? Bhakti Vaibhav? What did he call it? Title? The Life of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It's a multi-volume book written by his own Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. I said I should get that copy immediately before it go out of print. I still don't have. Of course, I don't have a time immediately, but when I have a time, at least I can read it. That's something we should have it. Similarly, everyone should have Prabhupada Lilamrit. And at least everyone should have read or should be reading Prabhupada Lilamrit. Once you get absorbed in those personality, in the character, in the life now, so many things will get settled. One thing will get settled is at times when life is not going the way we want it, because life is all about ups and downs, when life is not going in a favorable way, when we are feeling low, when you read about the lives of these personalities, when you see the challenges that they face, and with a smiling face they dealt with all those challenges, you laugh at your struggles. You realize your struggles are not even significant even to think about, have no significance. But for me, because I'm so centralized within my own life, I'm just so much caught up within my own sphere, I think the problems are so big. So we should often read about these great personalities. Read about the Goswamis. There's so much have been written about Goswamis also now. If not, hear about them. But I would say hearing, for those of you who have been around for a while, hearing is still okay, but we should now build up on practice on reading now. I'm not talking those who have been just new in the last 2-3 years. Those who have been for more than 3 years practicing nicely, they should now dedicatedly focus their energy on cultivating reading habit. Because you may not get everything to hear about, but you can still read. So that's important. So that way you can be in touch with great personalities. So one thing that I've noticed is somewhere the angle is I should read about the Lord, I should hear about the Lord, if in case that, that still is limited in the Kanishta paradigm. What about the devotees? What do you see in the Bhagavatam? What is the conversation about? They ask him about the lives of the devotees. So we should take a lesson from here. And if in case we remain in touch with these great personalities, I can do one thing immediately would happen is you'll find yourself to be in a very fortunate situation. You'll find yourself, you have none of those challenges which they had to face, while trying to establish Krishna consciousness or while trying to practice Krishna consciousness. And what happens when you read, I personally love Mahabharata. But the problem with Mahabharata in general is, for many is, they think it's a bygone story. It's historical. But when you read about Prabhupada's life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's life, it still seems practical, but it seems like, abhi to hua hai. Then it seems like, yes, I can also imbibe those, their forgiveness, their tolerance and whatnot, because they did that. So you see what works for you. Anyways, some thoughts on it. Text number 11. And now Maitreya Muni begins to speak. Maitreya Vacha Ganga Yamunayo Nadyo Antara Kshetramavasan Arabdhaneva bubuje bhoga punya jihasaya. The great saintly sage Maitreya told Vidura, My dear Vidur, my dear Vidur, King Pṛthu lived in the tract of land between the two great rivers, Ganges and Yamuna. Because he was very opulent, it appeared that he was enjoying his destined fortune in order to diminish the result of his past pious activities. Just to speak on the great personalities, you see that in the first canto, when Narad Muni had appeared to Vyasadeva, uh, what was the issue with Vyasadeva? Anyone remembers? Huh? Dissatisfaction. Vyasadeva have written everything. Vyasadeva knew past, present, future. Past, present, future. He knew everything. He had written about everything. But somewhere he was not content. Narad Muni comes. Vyasadeva and Narad Muni have a samvad, a conversation. Does anyone remember what did Vyasadeva ask Narad Muni? Yes, Sanjay. What did Vyasadeva ask Narad Muni?
What can I do to get satisfied?
That is the first level of question. That is done. What is the next thing that Vyasadeva asked, which was out of context, out of syllabus, which had nothing to do with his worry? No. It had nothing to do about him. It had nothing to do about his worry. What did Vyasadeva ask Narad Muni? And that led to the next whole chapter. He asked about Narada's past life. I just wanted to think about why did he ask about Narada's past life? We don't know exactly at times what kind of conversation we are supposed to have. We're caught up in all kind of very mundane conversation. Why did he ask? No, my question to all of you is, if Vyasadeva knew past, present, future, yes or no? So do you think he would not know the past life of Narada Muni? Then why did he ask Narada Muni about past life? Please, can you tell me, Narada? Because he told about his Narada Dubai briefly. Can you please tell me more about it? And there's a whole conversation about that whole thing. So think about it. How important it is. Particularly, now we have this, I was just thinking recently, thinking about now because a lot of Vyas Puja is going to come. So we have the 75th Vyas Puja for His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. Whichever Vyas Puja, whatever it is, first, second, doesn't matter. Now, what's the importance of Vyas Puja? Gratitude. Okay, what happens on the day of Vyas Puja? Let's put it this way. What happens on the day of Vyas Puja? What happens on the day of Vyas Puja is generally we force ourselves either to hear or to remind ourselves of all the contributions, sacrifices that particular individual have done in our life. Yes or no? Now imagine how important it would be for those of us who are at distance from that personality. Our association is largely limited to a spiritual association because we get to hear. Spiritual association is often nourishing. So even if you don't get too much here, it won't make a difference. You will still continue happily hearing his lecture. You will still be nourished because there is no managerial conversation. But imagine somebody is working very close. Managerial side means friction. There's going to be challenges and problems and whatnot because now you see a different type of personality there. For you may not be so much important to be there, but it's very important for those who are serving with that personality to at least hear and remember. Because when we are often looking at the managerial side, then we forget about the spiritual side. Then we forget about what all this person have done for us or done for the community or the society at large. And when those individuals, when they are themselves, imagine they are the senior members working very closely with the leader, when they themselves have to, bhaiya, aaj mujhe offering karni hai. Now they'll have to think, see Mahārāja, how did he came in 1987? How much struggles he did? People in those days did not even allow him to sit on Vyasasana. So many things were happening. How much he struggled and all that. And then they go through, they force themselves. Immediately the spiritual side takes the forefront. And all that little bit glitches, all that little bit confusion, it all subsides. This is very important. This should be very important done. You look at the history, has there been any spiritual, in the spiritual forum, any relationship where there had not been a conflict? We had disciples leave Prabhupada. We had Prabhupada, क्या कहते हैं, secretary, assistant, क्या कहेंगे? Personal servant. We had personal servant of Prabhupada leave. And now we hear about devotees saying, for example, Radhanath Maharaj says, I had the opportunity to be with Prabhupada. If I would have agreed, I could have. जब Prabhupada ने कहा ना वृंदावन रुकने के लिए, those kind of things, Maharaj. So we hear from devotees who did not have that opportunity, they hanker. And simultaneously, we hear about people who had opportunities, who served, and they left. So this is always the situation. So therefore, who was saying this point? Our guest speaker from Chapati, who had gone. Baldev Prabhu. He said when Gauranga Prabhu had to get involved with GV project, he's going to become the right hand in whatever way he was saying. So then Gauranga Prabhu, when Baldev Prabhu was teasing him, Prabhuji, wow, abhi to bahut mahan ho gaye. I'm just paraphrasing, you know what he said. But the main point, which really struck me that time, Gauranga Prabhu said, please pray for me. This is Shastric fact. With a spiritual personality, if you're with a spiritual personality, they're like fire. They burn you on anathas, and they can burn you also in your spiritual life if you commit aparadha. And to know more about this is a beautiful book by His Holiness Shivram Swami Maharaj. What is that name? Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. There he talks in details about Kanishthadhikari. Kanishthadhikari cannot grow without the association. Kanishthadhikari cannot take the association. Because if you take the association, he'll commit fault and he'll fall down. But he cannot grow if he does not take an association. So whose responsibility is to be careful? It is our responsibility. And see what did Gauranga Prabhu said? Please, all of you pray that I do not commit aparadha. This is something we, so therefore we should have an opportunity to discuss about the devotees. And this is what we see here. So why I'm paying attention is somewhere I have seen, devotees talk about God, but at times we don't speak so much favorably about the devotees. Or even if, let's say, for example, I have to play this Prabhupada video, whichever, the movie which was Hare Krishna movement, right? Yaduva Prabhu. If I have to play it again, at times I've heard, Prabhuji, dekh to li hai. I know about the life of Prabhupada. You don't know, you sit and watch. You develop gratitude first. It's not that because I've heard once, I've seen once, it's not a knowledge component, it's a matter of heart. You develop that attachment and affection. Don't think like this. See 1,000 times, what's the problem? Some of us who hear regularly Prabhupada Lila, for example, let's say I have read Prabhupada Lilamrita. Now I know many Prabhupada pastimes. Why to hear again and again? It's essential, particularly for our Guru, particularly for Srila Prabhupada in that context. We should try to build very healthy relationship because we have joined their movement. We cannot just whimsically say, yes, I know Prabhupada. So we should try to hear. Not only hear from them, but hear about them. And therefore there is a whole series about Prabhupada, where Prabhupada disciples speaking at length about Prabhupada. So you go on YouTube, you'll find that. That should be during lunchtime, play that. Don't hear class, philosophy. That's not the time for it. During prasadam, hear that. You'll feel so nourished in relationship and our commitment will increase like that. Anyways, just few thoughts on it because I've seen often this subject is missed out. Text number 11. My dear Vidura, King Pṛthu lived in the tract of land between the two great rivers, Ganga and Yamuna. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, Pṛthu Maharaj was the king of the whole world, but he lived in a tract of land between Ganga and Yamuna, which means where did he live? At least Bharat first, India. So let's zoom in India. In India, it must be somewhere in the northern part of it. That's what Prabhupada says like this. It appeared that he was enjoying his destined fortune in order to diminish the results of his past pious activities, like that has been described. Text number 12. Maharaj Pṛthu was an unrivaled king and possessed the scepter for ruling all the 7 islands on the surface of the globe. So that's how he's the king of the whole world. No one could disobey his irrevocable orders, but the saintly persons, the Brahmanas, and the descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One more thing, my mind is stuck on that point. Not only hear about your spiritual master, hear about other spiritual masters also. Because ISKCON is of a family. So don't say, I'm just going to read and hear only about my spiritual master. If you hear about other spiritual masters, other leaders also, your faith in the whole movement will become solid. There are always things going on. There had been some case going on in Bihar. There is something going on here and there. They can demoralize us. अरे ऐसा भी होता है ISKCON में? क्या ISKCON सही में वास्तविक संस्था है? Something can happen to your family member connected to some other temple and center, and they may have had a bad experience, and then you may wonder, ISKCON में ऐसा होता है? So therefore, you need to know about the good people also. So please, ever have the opportunity, whenever have an opportunity to learn about the devotee, never miss on that. That's the point I want to highlight. So that's the idea, Saptadvipa. So he's the king of the Saptadvipa. Now I'm going to pay some attention to the purports. They're very nice purports here. So purport, first, second, and third paragraph. Material designations create differentiation in terms of caste, color, creed, nationality, etc. Different gotras, the family designations, are distinctions in terms of the material body. But when one comes to Krishna consciousness, he immediately becomes one of the Achyuta Gotra, or descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus becomes transcendental to all considerations of caste, creed, color, and nationality. So we all are part of Krishna's family. We are his descendants now. We Achyuta Gotra. We can meditate on that so we understand the responsibility that we carry. All right. Text number 13. Once upon a time, King Pṛthu initiated the performance of a very great sacrifice in which great saintly sages, Brahmanas, Devtas, from higher planetary system and great saintly kings known as Raj Rishis, all assembled together. Purport writes in the purport, in those days, even Devtas will come down to take part in sacrifices performed on this planet. Text number 14. In that great assembly, Mahārāja Pṛthu first of all worshipped all the respectable visitors according to their respective positions. After this, he stood up in the midst of the assembly, and it appeared that the full moon had arisen among the stars. So, purport, we were talking about guest reception in the beginning. So, the first procedure, the third line of the purport, the first procedure in receiving guests is to wash their feet. And it is learned from Vedic literature that one time when Mahārāja Yudhishthira performed a Rajasuya Yajna, Krishna took charge of washing the feet of the visitors. Visitors does not refer to public here. Here it refers to all sages, not Kshatriyas, only sadhus. Just to clarify that, okay? All right, text number 15. King Pṛthu's body was tall and sturdy, and his complexion. So now, following verses will describe what the beauty of King Pṛthu Maharaj. His complexion was fair, his arms were full and broad, and his eyes as bright as the rising sun. His nose was straight. I don't know what it means, his nose was straight. मुझे तो आप सबकी भी नाक straight ही नजर आ रही है. Anyone knows? I don't know what it means. His face very beautiful, and his personality grave. His teeth were set. मतलब I don't know, ladies की beauty description में भी teeth का उल्लेख होता होगा, I don't know. But his teeth were set beautifully in his smiling face. All right, interesting purport, the second paragraph of the purport. As it is said, the face is the index of the mind. One's mental constitution is exhibited by his facial features. The bodily features of a particular person are exhibited in accordance with his past deeds. For according to one's past deeds, his next bodily features, whether in human, animal, or demigod society, are determined. This is proof of the transmigration of the soul through different types of bodies. Text number 16. The chest of Mahārāja Pṛthu was very broad. His waist was very thick, and his abdomen wrinkled by lines of skin, resembled in construction a leaf of a banyan tree. His navel was coiled and deep, his thighs were of a golden hue, and his instep was arched. so descriptive. I believe the image will be creating in your mind right now how Pṛthu Maharaj looked like. Except for one thing, his nose was straight. Oh, मेरे लिए अभी vacuum है मतलब क्या है वो? Text number 17. The black slick hair on his head. When I was reading ना, I said अपने तो बाल ही नहीं है, तो ठीक है मैं शिखा पकड़ के कह सकता हूँ. The black slick hair. The black slick hair on his head was very fine and curly. His neck like a conch shell. This all resembles the description of Krishna's beauty also. When you talk about the neck, like conch shell, like this, which means has this fine lines, beautiful lines, was decorated with auspicious lines. He wore a very valuable dhoti. And there was a nice wrapper on the upper part of his body. So this is the description of his beauty. Text number 18 now. As Maharaj Pṛthu was being initiated to perform the sacrifice, he had to leave aside his valuable dress, and therefore his natural bodily beauty was visible. It was very pleasing to see him put on a black deerskin and wear a ring of kusha grass on his finger. For this increased the natural beauty of his body. It appears that Maharaj Pṛthu observed all the regulatory principles before he performed the sacrifice. How many of you find it mundane or transcendental? Vidurji, what did Vidurji asked? Please tell us about Pṛthu Maharaj. Tell us more about Pṛthu Maharaj. And here Maitri Muni begins to describe the beauty of Pṛthu Maharaj. For how many of us sounds mundane? Yaar, kya baat karni beauty? Talk. You can think about it. Maitri Muni knows ordinary person. Here Maitri Muni is speaking about it and going. It's not that Viduru asked particularly. Please let me know about the beauty of that. So this all is part of transcendental conversation. Text number 19. Just to encourage the members of the assembly and to enhance their pleasure, King Pṛthu glanced over them with eyes that seemed like stars in a sky wet with dew. He then spoke to them in a great voice. Text number 20 is very important. 7 characteristics of a great speech. You can give a whole seminar on art of speaking with this particular verse. Charu chitra padam slakshnam mrashtam gudham aviklavam sarvesham upakarahartham tada anuvadan iva. Charu chitra padam slakshnam mrishtam gudam aviklavam sarvesham vakarartham tada anuvadan iva. So what was his speech like? Charu, beautiful. Chitra padam, flowery. Slakshnam, clear. No ambiguity, no abstractness. Whoever heard was very clear what Pṛthu Maharaj meant. Mrashtam, very great. Gudham, meaningful of meaningful. Has a meaning. Every word had a meaning. Aviklavam, without any doubt. Sarvesham upakaratham, and it was meant to benefit others. Maharaj Pṛthu's speech was very beautiful, full of metaphorical language, clearly understandable, very pleasing to hear. His words were all grave and certain. It appears that when he spoke, he expressed his personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who were present. And now Pṛthu Maharaj begins to speak here. So this is what now the chapter Instructions of Pṛthu Maharaj begins, or Instructions by Maharaj Pṛthu begins. I'll take up to another 10 verses and pause. So major focus of Pṛthu Maharaj discussion would be, prior to Pṛthu Maharaj there was King Vena, who had destroyed the theistic culture, who had destroyed God consciousness. And now Pṛthu Maharaj, so you understand why he was performing the Ashwamedh Yajna? Because he wanted opulence, he wanted sustainability for his citizen. Now finally he has come back, he had darshan of Lord Vishnu, had a conversation with Lord Vishnu, etc. Now he's performing another yajna. Now he takes an opportunity of this, because yajna means everyone have come. Yajna, the idea of yajna is a festival. What was a festival in those days? They were called as yajna. Vivaha yajna, samskar yajna. So anything, everything you will do in the past will involve a yajna like this. So it's a festival. The fourth canto, the first conversation, Lord Shiva and Sati, because Daksha was performing yajna. You remember Sati? Are everyone is going. So yajna is a festival. So you understand. So which means everyone have assembled. Now Pṛthu Mahārāja has an opportunity to speak to everyone whatever he wants to communicate. So therefore he is going to speak about the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how everything functions under the will of the Lord. To once again re-establish the fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists. And here you're going to have some very beautiful purports, some points which will be familiar to all of us, but still nonetheless we'll read it out. Text number 21. King Pṛthu said, O gentle members of the assembly, may all good fortune be upon you. May all of you great souls who have come to attend this meeting kindly hear my prayer attentively. A person who is actually inquisitive must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. Now, it's again very interesting. Please understand and imagine, visualize otherwise. There are hundreds and thousands of millions of people have assembled there. What is Pṛthu Mahārāja saying here? May all of you great souls who have come to attend this meeting. Is he referring to everyone? Or is he referring to a particular audience here? Which means there are Shudras also, Vaishyas also, Kshatriyas also, Brahmanas also, everyone. May all of you great souls who have come to attend this meeting kindly hear my prayer attentively. A person who is actually inquisitive must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. Is the king going to present whatever he's about to do for consultation to the whole assembly? No, he's speaking to a particular assembly, which Prabhupada says he's speaking right now to Vaishnavas. And then Prabhupada describes what happens in any public gathering. Please take a look, very interesting. When a person is very great and famous, second line, many unscrupulous persons become his enemies, for envy is the nature of materialist or material life. The point is, if you are becoming successful, or you can consider yourself successful, if there are some people envious of you, don't become upset. You can at least say, okay, I have become successful. So it's just the nature of this world. There are going to be certain people who are going to become envious. Prabhupada writes, in any meeting there are different classes of men. And it is to be supposed, therefore, that because Pṛthu Mahārāja was very great, he must have had several enemies present in the assembly, although they could not express themselves. Mahārāja Pṛthu, however, was concerned with persons who were gentle, and therefore he first addressed all the honest persons, not caring for the envious. He did not, however, present himself as a royal authority empowered to command everyone, for he wanted to present a statement in a humble submission before the assembly of great sages and saintly persons. As a great king of the entire world, he could have given them orders, but he was so humble, meek, and honest that he presented his statement for approval in order to clarify his mature decision. Everyone within this material world is conditioned by the modes, but although Pṛthu Mahārāja was above all these, still like an ordinary conditioned soul, he presented his statements to the great souls, sages, and saintly persons present there. Therefore, when you talk about a Kshatriya, you also have to know the art of diplomacy. Diplomacy means still have a friendly relationship even with an inimical person. Yes, you're getting the point here? I'll give you one classic example of geopolitics is India and China, they had a confrontation. Galwan Valley, I believe. Somewhere like that. They restricted something, but yet the business trade continued. It's not that no leader came out publicly and said anything. Local politician, opposition, they would have said something. But you would not have heard anything from Modi against China or Jinping, जो भी है वो, zip. So जो भी है उसका नाम, तो उसने भी कोई publicly नहीं कहा होगा. So it's a part of diplomacy. Idea is you have a purpose. What is the purpose? Let's say in terms of geopolitics, the purpose, let's say for a genuine statesman is, my nation should grow. my nation should progress. For a king, my kingdom should grow. Now, for that, even if I have to shake hands with the inimical person, so be it, as long as they are able to fulfill my purpose. For example, if I depend on another party to provide me oil, India does not have some of those resources. It has to depend on them. So there you have to shake hands. You have to be diplomatic. And that is how the king has to be. That's how the leader has to be. That's the point being highlighted here. Text number 22. King Pṛthu continued, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, I have been appointed the king of this planet. And I carry the scepter to rule the citizens, protect them, give them employment according to Varnashrama. All right. So that's the point. So Prabhupada highlights the leader. The leadership role is, so point Prabhupada mentioned, the Prabhupada is, if one is president or king, it should be understood that this opportunity has been given to him by the Supreme Lord. The third or the fourth line. So leadership role has been ordained by the Lord. So that's what Prabhupada says here. Text number 23. Mahārāja Pṛthu said, I think that upon the execution of my duties as king, I shall be able to achieve the desirable objectives described by experts in Vedic knowledge. Which means if I perform my duty nicely, at least I'll get Swarga. This destination is certainly achieved by the pleasure of the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is the seer of all destiny. So what he's trying to say is, even for me to achieve Swarga, the result of my karma would only come if the Lord permits. So as I said in the beginning, he's going to establish the Supreme Personality Godhead. So he's speaking in that language. So even if I perform my duty, yes, I will get the result, but yet the result is not guaranteed unless the Lord is pleased. So who eventually ordains? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text number 24. Any king who does not teach his citizens about the respective duties in terms of varna and ashram, but who simply exact tolls and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious activities which have been performed by the citizens. I've already discussed in length prior in Parikshit Maharaj case also. I'm not going to go into the concept of how this karma functions. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his own fortune. Let's take a look. Prabhupada writes. Please go to the 5th line or 6th line of the purport. The laws of nature are very subtle. And Prabhupada gives an example. For example, if one eats in a place, you got it? If one eats in a place which is very sinful, he shares in the resultant reaction of the sinful activities performed there. What does it mean? If one eats in the sinful place, he shares in the resultant reaction of the sinful activities performed there. Can anyone give me a concrete example what it means? Yes, Gaurav.
If the people are not earning through right method, whatever taxes they are paying to...
It's an example of restaurant. Stick to the restaurant. Can you think of a concrete example? Yes, Gaurav. Is there a mic? Pass the mic. Anyone online would like to say what it means here? If you eat at a place which is very sinful, you share in the resultant reaction of sinful activities.
So, in case we go to a place where a non-vegetarian food is cooked,
even if you eat vegetarian, but there even non-veg is served, you'll get reaction for it. So, even if you're carrying your prasadam, and now you choose to sit down in some restaurant, thinking that I'm not eating there, I'm eating, the place will have its effect. These are the subtle laws here like this. You have to be careful. समझे? अभी तो तुम सुनो क्या क्या ज़्यादा है, इसलिए थोड़ा नियंत्रण में रहते हैं, ज़्यादा भटकते नहीं हैं, और हर जगह जाके फोटो नहीं खिंचवाते, फिर भगवान के पास एविडेंस रहेगा तू गया था वहाँ पर. सेल्फी की भी लिमिट होनी चाहिए. हाँ, it is a Vedic system, therefore for a householder, now very interesting, it is a Vedic system, therefore for a householder to call Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to eat at ceremonial performances in his house. Fine. It is a Vedic system, therefore for a householder to call Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to eat at ceremonial performances in his house, because the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas can immunize him from sinful activities. So which means now Brahmana Vaishnava should keep moving from one house to another house. Brahman Bhoj. Pura pad lo, huh? But it is not the duty of rigid Brahmanas or Vaishnavas to accept invitations everywhere. Puri picture jaan lo, huh? So it's not because now we are Brahmins, so we can go anywhere. No, you're not supposed to accept every invitation. There is, of course, no objection to taking part in feasts in which prasadam is distributed. Prabhupada again put a disclaimer. No question is, everywhere can I go, wherever there are devotees. You have to follow brahmachari ashram rule if you are in ashram. Anyways, there are many subtle laws which are practically unknown to people in general, but the Krishna consciousness movement is very significant in distributing all this Vedic knowledge, etc. like that. Just one example of that. Text number 25. Pṛthu Mahārāja continued, therefore, my dear citizens, for the welfare of your king after his death, you should execute your duties properly in terms of your positions of Varna and Ashrama. And should always think of the Supreme Personality Godhead within your hearts. By doing so, you will protect your own interests and you will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. Again, Pṛthu Mahārāja is requesting everyone to stick to Varna and Ashrama because prior to him, because of his unkind father, atheistic father, the culture has been destroyed. So he's requesting, please all of you stick to your Varna and Ashrama, follow that. And always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within your hearts. And now the last point. You will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. Anyone like to reflect anything? What's happening here? If the praja, let's say in our context, if the community is Krishna conscious, it helps the leader. Or else, if the community, there are something going on which is, not favorable, it adversely affects the leader. These are the subtle laws. It is not only in the context of Guru. Guru is not only Diksha Guru. And the king is not even a Guru. King is in fact a representative of the Supreme Personality Godhead, which means Guru is also representative. So you have to understand how it functions. Therefore, when you talk about the temple campus at least, we cannot allow breaking of 4 regulative principles at any cost. Therefore, who stays inside has to be very thoughtfully chosen. Consider this as a disclaimer from my end of what's going to happen next. I'm going to personally interview who comes and lives there. Not because you come from some center, there won't be any entry. And you are under observation from now only. Because you're staying here does not guarantee that you're going to stay in that campus. There are other teachers going to come around, you live around. Unless you're going to abide and adhere to the culture, unless I am confident that you're sticking to the culture, I leave it empty but not have it, because I will have to face the reactions for it. This is the whole idea about this thing. Text number 26. I request all the pure, and imagine if you do it nicely, then the leader also gets benefit. Text number 26. I request all the pure-hearted devatas, forefathers and saintly persons to support my proposal. What is the proposal? Proposal is I want every citizen to act according to Varna and Ashrama, become a devotee of the Lord. Atheism over now. Everyone has to become God conscious. That is a proposal, and I am requesting all the devatas, forefathers, everyone, please bless this proposal. For after death, the result of an action is equally, very important. For after death, the result of an action is equally shared by its doer, director, and its supporter. So, whoever is involved in decision making will have to bear the brunt. They have to bear the brunt. The laws of this world may act, but the subtle laws of the nature is definitely going to act. That's the idea here is. So one who's the doer, one is the director, and the supporter there. Text number 27. My dear respectful ladies and gentlemen, according to the authoritative statement of Shastra, there must be a supreme authority who is able to award the respective benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful both in this life and in the life after death? So this is a very big purport, beautiful purport. We'll make this as the last verse for today. We'll pay attention to the purport. Please go to the first paragraph. In the 5th or the 6th line, you will see the word Adoksaja Dhya. Got it?
Yeah.
Somebody would like to read if there is a mic around? In this verse, he specifically presents the authority of Shastra. Highlight that line. Yeah.
It has already been.
कहाँ से पढ़ रहा है ना, वहाँ से पढ़ रहा है. In this verse, he is specifically. कहाँ था highlight कर रहा है भाई तू? I'm saying something. Where are you paying attention? In this verse, after Dukh Saja Dhyana, next line.
Okay.
In this verse,
In this. हाँ.
in this verse, yeah, got it.
Okay. In this verse, he specifically presents the authority of Shastra, even though his father was a number one atheist who did not abide by the injunctions mentioned in the Vedic Shastras, who practically stopped all sacrificial performances, and who so disgusted the Brahmanas that they not only dethroned him but cursed and killed him. Atheistic men do not believe in the existence of God, and thus they understand everything which is happening in our daily affairs to be due to physical arrangement and chance. Atheists believe in the atheistic Sankhya philosophy of the combination of Prakriti and Purusha. They believe only in matter and hold that matter under certain conditions of amalgamation gives rise to living force, which then appears as Purusha, the enjoyer. Then by a combination of matter and the living force, the many varieties of material manifestation come into existence. Nor do atheists believe in the injunctions of the Vedas. According to them, all the Vedic injunctions are simply theories that have no practical application in life. Taking all this
All
into...
right, so this is the first point. Okay. Then the next paragraph, Prabhupada mentions about, beautifully describes about Mayavad and Buddhism. I've spoken at length, but we can still read it again. Mayavad is nothing but hidden Buddhism. And the modern science is nothing but the mix of all of it, the current civilization. So in the next paragraph, you will see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore described the Mayavad philosophers. We are able to find that? Yeah. All right, somebody else can read it?
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore described the Mayavadi philosophers as the greatest offenders against the personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic system, one who does not abide by the orders of the Vedas is called a Gnostic or atheist.
So one who does not abide by the orders of Vedas. So who all have rejected Vedas? Even within the Vedic paradigm? Buddhists. Who else have rejected Vedas? Jainism. Therefore they call us Gnostic. Isha Parishad's first lecture. We're just doing revision. Please go ahead.
When Lord Buddha preached his theory of non-violence, he was obliged to deny the authority of the Vedas, and for this reason, he was considered by the followers of the Vedas to be a Gnostic. But although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was clearly enunciated that the followers of Lord Buddha's philosophy are Gnostics or atheists because of their denial of the authority of the Vedas, he considered the
Shankarites, Shankaracharya followers,
Sankarites who wanted to establish Vedic authority by trickery and who actually followed the Mayavad philosophy of Buddha's school to be more dangerous than the Buddhists themselves. The Sankaritis philosophers' theory there that we have to imagine a shape of the God is more dangerous than denial of the existence of God. Notwithstanding all the philosophical theorizing by atheists or Mayavadis, the followers of Krishna consciousness rigidly live according to the injunctions.
So, all right. This is the point about. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was particular about Mayavad. They are more dangerous than even Buddhists like that. Then please, okay, I'll just summarize then. And then later on the purport is a big purport. Prabhupada says there are two kinds of duties, mundane duties and duty performed for the yajna, karma no nitra. Very beautiful point Prabhupada mentions. Material existence is a struggle to conquer the impediments put forth by material nature. What is material existence about? It's a constant struggle to overcome one impediment after another impediment after another impediment. So we were recently discussing about the material world is a place of struggle and spiritual world is free from struggle, like that. So like that. The asuras are always fighting to overcome these impediments, and by the illusory and power of the material nature, the foolish living entities work very hard within this material world. and take this to be happiness. So asuras are always fighting to overcome these impediments. So in fact, we all are fighting. So by default, asuras. Now, those who have understood these impediments are coming because of my own karmic reaction, will of the Lord, then they become sura. Otherwise, by all default is asura. This is called Maya. In that hard struggle for existence, they deny the existence of the supreme authority. Then Prabhupada says, in order to regulate the activities of living entities, Krishna has given us a course, just as a king gives course of law and state. That's the point. I'm just quickly summing up. The different varieties of life and of material existence do not come about by chance and necessity. The different arrangements made by the Supreme Lord in terms of pious and impious activities. And next paragraph. The theory of chance can best be explained in the Vedic literatures by the words Ajnana Sukriti. Ajnana Sukriti, which refer to pious activities performed without the actor's knowledge. But these are also planned. For example, Krishna comes like an ordinary human being. He comes as a devotee like Lord Chaitanya, who sends a representative, the spiritual master of pure devotee. This is also the planned activity of the Supreme Personality Godhead. They come to canvass and educate. Thus, a person in the illusionary the Supreme Lord gets a chance to mix with them, talk with them, and take lessons from them. And somehow or other, if a conditioned soul surrenders to such personalities, and by intimate association with them chances to become Krishna conscious, he is saved from the material conditions of life. Like that, the purport concludes. So anyways, I'll pause here. We'll continue with these instructions. So what's going to happen ahead is Pṛthu Mahārāja is going to speak, and then finally the yajna would be successful. Then following this chapter, the next chapter would be now Pṛthu Mahārāja will welcome the four Kumaras, the conversation between four Kumaras and Pṛthu Mahārāja. And then the last chapter of Pṛthu Mahārāja's life is the 2 chapters from now, where Pṛthu Mahārāja returns back home, back to Godhead. When I was today morning looking at this, I was thinking, if Friday would be our last class, before we go out for a Kartik thing, I was thinking if we can at least finish that chapter back home, back to Godhead wala, we'll be in the right consciousness. Otherwise, we'll touch upon in the first week of November. So we'll see. So we covered half of the chapter, there's half more remaining. Anyways, with that, I'll pause here for today. Some quick recap and highlights. So we talked about Pṛthu Mahārāja is being welcomed in the city, how Pṛthu Mahārāja was welcomed with the natural things, which is provided with the Supreme Personality Godhead. We talked about guest reception. Pṛthu Mahārāja did not become proud. Prabhupada writes, great personalities, they do not become proud with accomplishments. Sukhe dukhe samay lutva. We were talking about that particular thing. And then Viduraji was so curious to know about Pṛthu Mahārāja's life. Although Maitreya have concluded by saying that he came back, he ruled, he went back home, back to Godhead. Chapter over. Vijay said, wait, I want to know more. His eagerness to hear about the great personalities, not any personality, great devotees of the Lord. I was highlighting on the point how important for us also to have that eagerness to know about the great devotees of the Lord. We want to talk, we want to hear about it, talk about them, hear about them, converse about them. Our Prajalpa will turn into Sanjalpa. Fault-finding habit will go away like that. So that was a point being highlighted, and we then also made a point how important it is to discuss about these personalities, particularly, let's say we're all part of ISKCON movement, how important for us on a daily basis, if we can spend a few minutes reading or hearing about Srila Prabhupada. Anything may change, but at least Srila Prabhupada is there. If we can have that faith, then whatever ups and downs even ISKCON as a society has to go through, we'll be able to manage those hiccups. So that was the point. After that, we talked about Maitreya Muni began to speak about Pṛthu Mahārāja. He spoke about the beauty of Pṛthu Mahārāja, and then he began to speak about how Pṛthu Mahārāja welcomed the devotees, welcomed the guests, and then he wanted to consult with the senior members about his plan and vision for the whole community. And the vision for the whole community of the kingdom was every member of the kingdom, of his kingdom, should become Krishna conscious, God conscious, and stick to his varna and ashrama. And he has a big responsibility because his father had trained them in other way around. So he wanted to emphasize the point that all of you should stick to your varna and ashram, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists. Everything in this world happens by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you follow your dharma, I will get the benefit. If you don't follow your dharma, I will also get to suffer. So therefore, a king has to establish a rule that everyone follows dharma, which means there has to be discipline, there has to be policy, there has to be regulation. So because you share that. And the classic example Prabhupada says how subtle laws function. Although you may not have eaten anything sinful, but because you have eaten partake anything which is in the sinful place, the effect of that place would happen and you'll also get a reaction for it. And certain laws work in a very dynamic way. These are the points. With that, we pause here for today. Jadru Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions, any comments from anyone? Yes, Mother Shamavali. Mike, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, thank you for this wonderful explanation. One query I had was you were mentioning about that how the king or the leader will have to suffer or will have to take the fruits of his dependence, which is true also for a guru. So, if that is so, why would one be motivated to become a guru or a leader?
Yeah, that's the reason. Prabhupada said this is chosen by the Lord. In terms of motivation, the actual motivation for them should be service. Other motivation could be the privileges. The other motivation of privilege is more, then he will suffer more because then he'll not focus on his duty. The purpose is different.
So when I know that, if I put myself into the position, when I know that, my spiritual life or my suffering is going to be dependent on how my dependents are going to be,
Correct.
then why should I get into such a role? I better sit and chant my rather than focus on my
Which is
bhakti.
true, but if it has been asked of you to do it, you have to do it because that's the will of the Lord. How do we understand the will of the Lord? 11th chapter, I often quote these two verses, 42 or 43 or 44, 45th verse. What is that? Arjuna, become the instrument. What is the Sanskrit for that? Nimitta Mahatma Bhavasa Visachi. That verse and the following verse, purport. Please read the purport. Purport says the will of the Lord is understood by the will of the Guru.
Okay.
Follow the instruction. Following the instructions of Guru, you're following the instructions of the Lord. If the Guru have asked you to take that responsibility, that is the will of the Lord.
So then if somebody is doing things according to the will of the Lord, then won't they be immune to all these things? Will not Lord protect them and give them some kind of protection maybe?
Yeah, so here is a check and balance system has been created. Prabhupada will mention, we'll read that point tomorrow's session. A check and balance system is created where if you accept disciple, you're also going to accept their reactions.
Yes.
Of course, that is done on the behalf of the Lord. Lord will nullify it. As long as you have the right motivation.
Okay.
But if your motivation is, two things can happen. One is, we always need resources. To do anything in this world, we need resources. Imagine if you have wealthy disciples, wealthy students, and they may or may not necessarily follow the principles, but just to please them, we give them diksha or we give them post and position in the society, in a community like that, just to please them. Or they're demanding it and we depend on money and resources just to give them. Some people do that. Some leaders make that thing. They feel like compromise. At least mera kaam chalta rahega. What will happen in that context? You will have to face this problem.
Okay, got it.
You will have to, because you've compromised it. But in case if you're genuine, if you're true about the fact, who is qualified, who is not qualified, these are the qualification parameters. Let's say for Diksha, qualification parameter has been set. If you fit in, you get it. If you don't get it, fit in, you don't get it. Even if you wish to leave me, because what happened with people now, they will start demanding eventually.
Yes.
Once you know, and we build a certain relationship, then you start demanding. Because मैंने आपको अपना समय दिया है, मैंने आपके लिए सेवा करा है, मैंने आपको धन दिया है. Subtly, some even ask grossly. There is always a pressure, there is always like a war for a leader. Where to compromise, where to stand hold firm, it's not easy. And unless somebody who works in a close connection with the leader understand the frequency, you really cannot understand. Therefore, in the previous session, Pṛthu Mahārāja, I said, don't try to understand leader, it's beyond your capacity.
Yes.
Praja can never understand. In fact, I tell managers, I say, you are talking here and you are convinced you have understood. But unless you make the communication clear for the community, they will not understand why you did like this. Yes or no? I said, it's your duty as a manager to make sure you make it very clear so they understand. Otherwise, how would they understand of it? आपने 4 लोगों में आपस बात करके कर लिया समझ. But for you to understand also, we had to spend time explaining you. What about them? Our community also need to. So this is how the dynamic is. Leadership, frankly speaking, is a curse. In a devotional life, I say it publicly. In a devotional life, is a curse. Why unnecessary? Chant Hare Krishna, be happy. You can't even chant properly. There is so much mental anxiety and mental stress like this. Okay, things have come. You have to be in a position. You have to do it. You have to service. You have to carry out a service like this. Then you have to make certain choices, and certain choices and decisions would not be pleasing to some. I mean, even if you are, let's say, if you think of an example of a joint family, not immediate family, joint family, and the decision maker is the grandparents. Do you agree if you are a joint family with 3 brothers having 3 kids each, and the grandfather or the father or the 3 sons, he makes a decision? Do you think that all the sons and grandsons would acknowledge and be happy with it? Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. So decision making is not done with an intention to, to please everyone. Decision making is done with an intention. Is it aligned with the purpose? What is the purpose?
Okay.
To take everyone together and make them Krishna conscious. Knowing the fact very well, everyone will not become Krishna conscious, but we do still things which will help everyone become Krishna conscious. The purpose should be held first. And therefore, in our Sunday meeting, before speaking about the temple project, I spoke to all of them about 3 levels of conversation in Bhagavad Gita. What, how, why. What was asked by Dhritarashtra? How was asked by Duryodhana? How would have been the war? Why was asked by Arjuna to Krishna? Why are we fighting? And I told them, I said, see, among 3 conversations, why is what made a difference. As an individual, as a leaders, we should always ask why. And then from that why, I started, why are we doing what we are doing? Don't come and talk to me what, how, those are secondary, those are tertiary, it will done. Unless you are clear about the why purpose, you will not align. So my meeting was about that purpose, giving the whole history and background of how it started. So as a leader, stick to the purpose. Keep reminding people of the purpose. Ask why. What or how, don't worry. That Krishna will arrange. And you don't know how Krishna is still arranging for the project, how things are happening. So don't worry what and how, why is important thing, and focus on your area of service, what you can contribute. And if you're working with somebody, if not, spend time. How do you build faith on somebody? So let me ask this question. How would you build a faith on a leader?
Spending time with them. I mean, serving him and knowing him a little bit.
Very first thing is hearing from him. If you don't regularly hear, how would you observe the person? You will start observing the person when you hear what he stands for. Otherwise, what would you observe? You will observe from your perspectives, your background, your history, which could be corrupt history, corrupt background, and then you will map it on that person. Ye sahi nahi hai, ye galat hai, ye sab hai. Therefore, in council charter, if you have read, I made a point for council member. You got to attend 3 Bhagavatam classes compulsory. If you don't know your community, what is the point of council? Does it make sense? What is the point of council? What is the point of managers and leader if they don't know their community member? This allows an opportunity now where different devotees get to speak, they express. You hear them. As a leader, it's not that you speak and you don't hear others. No, there has to be there. It's not that you will come once in a while and you are counselor. It doesn't work like this. It's a failed formula. So those who want to know that, you can read the charter. Today you'll get an input form to give your feedback to the charter. I want to close it before I leave for Vrindavan because I have to finalize Bhumi Pujan thing. So I want to have a team which can work, and things are known to them, because I can't keep on calling everyone and everyone cannot come. And then this team responsibility is to have a rest of the communication. So I can work with my team, seniors like that. Okay, there's some of the thoughts on it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.